Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Salt the Streets podcast, the most pro-America, anti-government show you know, the show where we discuss news, government, and culture and how it pertains to you, the individual, and your natural rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Yes, I am that big bird-looking fellow they call Colin. I was like, that just didn't quite sound right.
It's been a while. It's been a month
Yes,
now.
it has. And, of course, I am joined, as always, by my co-host, brother-in-arms, the Nero of neoprene, a man aggrieved, Donovan Phillips. How are you, sir?
I'm excellent, sir. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Amen. What day is it? What time is it? What are we doing today?
Today is Saturday.
I get so lost in the beginning.
Yeah. Today is Saturday, June 17th, 2023. It is 12:02 p.m. and this is episode 150.
Hot dog.
Yeah. We don't have anything special planned. This is not a show like that.
No,
it's
150 is just a number, bro.
We'll
That's just what
celebrate
we
the
do.
things. It just sounds like a big number. Like it sounds like something
It's
you would
halfway
celebrate
between
for.
100 and 200.
But
100 was a good
Yeah.
deal. I don't think I was here for the 100th episode, right? That was that Century Club with the boys when I was in New York?
I don't remember. I honestly don't remember.
It's been a while.
Yeah, because I know at one point we also did like a get to know us type of show, where we just went through like all of the different topics that we have talked about and kind of said where we were at. But I also think we might have done that when we kind of like rebranded. I think we might have done that.
Like this is we're not trying to be breaking points out here, bro.
Yes.
He's here. What the fuck did you just fucking say about me, little bitch?
Thank you for joining us, Brian. We are happy to have you.
Brian?
Brian.
I just learned that.
Yes.
That was good. I call you Brian all last show.
So did
and
I.
From a guy who's used to killing Al Qaeda, I don't want to offend you and call you Brian.
So
I'm gonna call you Brian.
Yeah.
One of the teams.
That's right. Teams. It's going to be a good show today. Like I said, episode 150. We have some various topics. Of course, we have some local stories going on, some good ones about a Seattle ice cream shop, and I have some stuff about carjackings in the state. And I have
some carjackings in the state stuff too. Interesting.
We have kind of like the off-record discussion about Joe Kennedy, Coach Joe at Bremerton High School. So we'll talk about that. Part two, we're going to talk a little about the Trump indictment. As much as I really don't want to, I feel like it's relevant, and I don't know. I hate this has happened to us a couple of times where there's topics that drag on for a long time, and we end up talking about them for like 30 episodes in a row. Yeah. And we do it because it's relevant, but it gets fucking boring and it feels repetitive, and I don't want anybody else listening to feel like it's repetitive, And that's why I only have the one life and liberty thing today, is because how many times can I tell you that the government is trying to kill your children by sending them to Ukraine? I can only tell you that so many times before you're like, yeah, I get it. Yep. So
I was telling somebody at the brewery yesterday when I was picking up all the show beers and stuff, that essentially I can sit you down with almost anybody, and within 15 to 20 minutes you can convince them that every institution hates them and wants them to die.
I'm telling you.
And it's there's only so many ways you could say that on every show before it's like, okay, how many times do I got to tell you this, guys? They all hate you. They all want you to die.
Yeah.
They want your children to die. They just need you around for when they need you. And that's it.
My anti-government elevator pitch is strong.
Yes, it is.
It's very strong. It's very effective. I've had a lot of very good success with people that really don't like me and things that I have to say, being like, all right, maybe you're not a piece of shit. You're like, I promise I'm not. You're like, actually, I might be, but I promise that I just want to be left alone.
It's you don't understand how much I actually care about you and your rights, good sir.
Yeah, the pitch works well. It's very easy to... it's generally very easy to convince people that they should be able to make their own choices, So
yeah, when you boil it down like that, it generally works.
Yeah, I think it's very good. So
I have some angles on the Trump indictment stuff that will be not the usual talking points.
And I haven't. You can give me some updates on it, because I have not been following it that closely. Obviously, know what it's in reference to and stuff like that. But I haven't kept up with this week because I just super don't care.
Yeah,
I just am so tired of talking about Donald Trump in this type of a fashion that I would I hate it. So we also have a Breaking Down Breaking Points segment.
Yes.
For those of you who are new to the show, there is a show called Breaking Points that we were once madly in love with that has now degraded to an unrecognizable point, and we pride ourselves on taking clips from their show and just ravaging them.
Yes.
So we're going to be doing that in part 2. Part 3, we have some Ukraine updates, of course, the same type of deal. And then we have some kind of generalized military topics. I talked about some stuff in the last episode in the unheard third part of episode 149 that we can talk about in light today.
So excited about that.
I don't remember what I said. No one knows what I said, so it's going to forever just be left in the...
It's like the mysterious, what was it, episode 13?
Yeah.
That just doesn't exist.
It's just one of those things.
It exists on a hard drive somewhere, but it'll never exist for public consumption.
Don't know what to tell you. And then
I even forgot what it was like. The mic didn't work real well or something like that. I can't remember.
That. Yeah, because there was in the beginning we were still fucking with
the 360 mic. And
yes.
We're getting all close to it.
Going back and forth between 1 and 2 and shit like that. And
back in the day.
One of us forgetting one and being like, oh, no, we can still fucking
we got this.
Make a quality product with one microphone on a table in between 2 of us. Yeah, and then, of course, we have the grab bag, Colin's grab bag, as you saw in the intro, where he tries to break my brain. Before we go any further, I wanted to remind everyone, of course, to evaluate and adjust your relationship with the CCP.
Nailed it.
And then, of course, a shout out quick to our executive producer, Zeke. Largest Patreon contributor, so he's at the top tier. Of course, become the top tier. You are an executive producer. Your name gets mentioned at the beginning of every segment, likely at the end as well. So, good opportunity to pump the Patreon. Go to the Patreon, patreon.com/saltofthestreets. Go there, subscribe. It's getting bigger. People are going there. We have more and more Patrons all the time. So thank you guys. Thank you to everybody who subscribed, who has increased their patronage, their pledge. Is that what it is? It's pledging.
Pledging?
So thank you to everybody who's done that. Like I said, you guys are the ones that make the show, that help us do this. You're going to help us do it more consistently. So it's fantastic.
Yeah. And if you are a patron, even if you sign up to become a patron today, we have kind of like some set tiers and perks and stuff like that. But that was back when we were kind of just spitballing and getting this thing running. If there's anything in particular, any type of content exclusively that you'd like to get access to on the Patreon, hit us up and work with us. I'd love to work with everybody to make the Patreon a place where like we can start to like have a good time and hang out and have exclusive content just for that, just for you guys. Yeah,
if there's anything else that you guys want to see more of, I'm getting the GoPro situation on my kit figured out. And once I have that, I did some chopping and some adjusting. It still was a little bit too low, so I got to do some more fucking around, see what I can do with it.
I didn't see any footage from last week. Did you guys get any good stuff?
Drew's computer broke, so he's getting a new computer this weekend, and then he will be uploading the footage.
Nice.
Yeah, there was more people, so the footage is more spread out, stuff like that. But that's partially why I want to make sure that I get the GoPro up and running, so that I can just kind of let it run throughout the day, and then I can cut together kind of some better range footage and stuff like that of me running drills, as well as the jokes and the funny things, and
all the good stuff,
the candid stuff from range day.
So next time you guys go, we'll talk off show about it, but next time you guys go, start planning the next trip, let me know, because I would like to go and try out I would be designated camera dude. Type of stuff, and then we can make some sweet videos and stuff.
Small group next time out. I completely agree. I think it was good. Yeah. I don't like...
Seemed like a pretty big group when you guys...
It was a big group, and I'm new to the group, like, relatively, so I don't like to be like, I don't like this, because it's not... I feel very much a part of the group, right? I'm talking to you partially because you're in the chat, so I'm talking to Colin, but you're a part of this conversation. I very, very much feel part of the group. It is not at all that. It's just that I also am like one of the newer additions, so I'm hesitant to be too... I'm kind of an asshole, so I hesitate to be too assholey, about like shit that I don't like. Like, you've known me for a long time, so I follow my gut on a lot of stuff like that. If I meet somebody that I don't like, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know about this guy. I'm not sure about it. Like, I'm gonna, it's fine, but I'm gonna keep my eye on this. Like, so, I totally agree. Had a great time with all of those dudes, but I think that we get some more quality reps in with less people, and it's just kind of a closer experience, you know?
Yeah, that's just something that you lose by default when you start adding making a small group into a bigger group.
Yeah.
And just always stuff like that.
Those guys were all really cool, but part of the thing that I really appreciate about this group of dudes that I found is that they are close. It is tight-knit, that, like, we have a group chat. I don't want a group chat with 30 fucking people in it, you know?
No, bro, that's too many.
I like the group chat that has 8 people in it. Like, I like that because these are the people that I like talking to, you know?
Yep.
After last range day, we had, like, a good... I don't want to fucking open it up too much, but we had like a very good discussion about how much we were all appreciating what we had going on. And
nice.
Just that it's a good environment. It's very positive. It's helping us in many different facets of our life. And so I don't know how much I talked about it on the show, but I know I talked about it with you a ton.
Mm-hmm.
Like this of what I was looking for in this type of group, you know, and this is it. Like this is precisely what I've been describing for probably close to 2 years now. Like I really need people. I want to do this and this. Like, so these guys are precisely that, and I think that was
quite serendipitous.
Yeah, and that was really I felt that way before, but it was definitely solidified for me this last trip doing kind of that little course with Nate and stuff like that. And it was like this is it.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
It all got our gears turning of different things that we can do and little classes that we can all put on to just make ourselves more well-rounded amble men. You know what I'm saying?
Amble men. Look at that.
That's right. Much love, Brian. Much love. Yeah, so I do have a question for you today.
Should I hit the button?
Yeah, go for it. With that, let me ask you this. Good graphic. It's a damn good graphic. Yeah. So
every now and again.
I don't remember why we're talking about Ukraine. That's why I started thinking about this, right? And I was talking about this kind of with Cleveland, a few weeks ago when him and I started talking about D-Day, which is the book club book for the next 2 months. I know we're behind on the review previews. Part of that is because this is a 2-month book. There's things going on there. The next review preview, there's like a lot of deeper discussions to go on because of the things that it implicated. It was like a lot of libertarian anarchist type of stuff. So I got to really wrap my mind around the way that I want to discuss that book before I present it. I want to make sure that it's done well. And I'm considering doing it at my house too. Some of these, like this one, could probably be like a stream of consciousness type of thing. You know, I could do it in like I've done some of the earlier review previews because there's not a lot of deep analysis of like this particular book of
we
D-Day.
all know D-Day. It's just
there's going to be a lot of readings and stuff like that of like, this was really cool. I learned this was sick. Like, so we'll see what happens. But either way, D-Day is the book for this month and next month. It's fantastic. I'm already over halfway through it. So I found another book that I have on my shelf. I think it's called Imperial Grunts, and it is about the modern age of the soldier in the wars in the Middle East, the global war on terror, and the kind of the ways that they were used by the federal government to grow the American empire in the ways that didn't necessarily benefit the citizens of America.
It sounds like right up my fucking alley.
Super excited to read it. Yeah. So I think that will be like a really good compare and contrast between what happened on D-Day and the events surrounding this invasion and World War II in general and the global war on terror. I think there'll be a really interesting compare and contrast, if not for the review preview, then for my own personal analysis. So, this is okay. So let me ask you this. This is how we got here. D-Day.
I was going to say that was a really
D-Day.
smooth plug for the book club.
Yes.
In the Let Me Ask You This segment. Because you know this is its own clip.
That's right. D-Day, I was talking to Cleveland about how different these guys were. The guys who stormed the beach of Normandy, who jumped behind
different humans.
Lives, completely different caliber human being, right? And so we're talking about how far separated we are from that and how easy it is now for people of my generation and especially after me to forget about that. Because there are fewer people, obviously all the time, that were alive during World War II to even tell the stories personally. And that's why I think like the YouTube videos, the interviews from World War II vets are so huge, because now they're there forever. Their stories are immortalized on the internet, that generations can continue to appreciate that and try and understand what they were doing, why they did it, and what they went through. So in the context of the global war on terror extending to the war in Ukraine, right? Why do you think that when we look at 9/11, it's like a national holiday, right? It's a day of memorial. We still talk about it. It's still a very big theme in America. We still talk about it consistently. So we still remember that very vividly. But it seemed that with the war hawk language around Ukraine and America and NATO's involvement, it seems as though it was very, very easy for many people in America to forget the way that the global war on terror affected our country and the people that fought in it and the people that came back, right? Why do you think that it was so easy for us to forget that, but we remember 9/11, or at least use it as a tool, right, as a propaganda tool so consistently now? Does that question make sense?
Yeah,
I know it was kind of chunked up a little bit in the
it makes sense, and I think especially it makes more sense when you compare it to like World War II and June 6th D-Day, Pearl Harbor, those big dates that have more or less faded away for a lot of the American societal consciousness. But when you look at like 9/11, like the anniversary is still somewhat of a big deal, but really the only reason is because it's still in our collective conscience as a society, because you could still, you see it all the time, people reposting the videos on fucking social media, so
right.
you're always getting reminded of what that was. But as far as the overall larger implications of what, like, say, going from 9/11 to where we're at now in Ukraine, and you could basically draw a fucking line all the way through, you can connect all the things to get us in the same situation, more or less. I think the reason, why don't most people recognize that? Is that more or less the question?
Yeah, why was it so easy for us to forget the way that affected us? Because now that we're looking down the barrel of another potential war, of potentially sending more American soldiers to another foreign war, people are happy to do it. They've got the Ukraine flags on their car, they got them on their house, they're
it's because it
happy to send billions over there. We send F-16, send F-22, send whatever, just keep going.
And I think it's because when it comes to what took place in the Middle East, how it started, big shock and awe campaigns, tanks, Humvees, Generation Kill, that whole thing, that felt more like your traditional war, minus the fact that there was any kind of question on how it was going to turn out. We just went in and just devastated. And then it turned into this, it morphed into a different thing that isn't going to be in the news every day, because it's not something you can really form a bunch of propaganda around. And even if you do, the shit that's going on over there, maybe we don't want the media to talk about it because we're all making a bunch of money over there and a lot of shady shit's happening. And so you just kind of don't want the media to cover it. So the media covers little things here and there, but overall the things that are happening over there just kind of happen in the dark, in the shadows. The only people that are affected by it are the military members and their families. And we've done a great job as a country of taking care of all of those veterans when they come back with all their fucked up, issues, whether it's PTSD or getting blown up,
right,
torn families. The United States government's real good at taking care of all those people, right?
Right.
If you're an audio listener, I'm being highly sarcastic. They just don't. It's not a thing that they are prepared to deal with, so they just don't deal with it, and then it all just gets shoved down and quieted down. Nobody on a grand societal scale really cares, because we're not made to care. You only care if you're directly attached to somebody who's been affected by it,
or because we aren't yet,
and because we're not yet, and we won't be for it'll take another nationwide fucking war where hundreds of thousands of people are over there dying for the collective consciousness of the nation to actually get impacted again. We just haven't had that since Vietnam, essentially.
Right.
And even Vietnam was different, but there was still a draft. People were still going over there and dying
right.
for fucking nothing.
Because
World War II, it made sense.
The numbers of people that we lost in the global war on terror comparatively to Vietnam are minuscule. They're very,
minuscule.
very, very small.
Yeah.
It's still thousands of people.
Yeah, it's not a small number.
Right.
They're still...
Right. It's comparatively to the previous wars that we
just
were involved
different things.
in. Yeah.
So that would be my guess, is that's why we don't really think about that stuff. For one, we're not made to think about it. We're not supposed to think about it, because there'd be too much pushback if the society at large did think about it that way.
Right.
We wouldn't want to be involved in any of this shit. The most diehard set of neocons up in Congress could not convince the majority of America that their brothers and their cousins, and nowadays their sisters and everybody like that, should go over there and die. In World War II and even in Vietnam, in a lot of ways, you could still convince people that they were doing the right thing on a big, broad scale. Can't do that now. Once these people that are flying Ukraine flags out here on half the houses in the neighborhood and on the fucking local store and all that shit, once their kids get fucking draft notices to go over and fight, those fucking flags are coming down.
Right.
Because then society will be forced to deal with the reality of what's actually happening over there. Right now, man, you got to pay really, really close attention. Go down a lot of rabbit holes. You know, it takes a lot of effort to really become informed about what's going on over there.
Right.
And then really, all you're really doing at that point is getting informed that, like, you don't know anything and you can't really actually know what's truly going on there.
Right.
All you know is that both sides are fucking lying to you, and then people are dying in the process, and this is not something we should get involved in, because I don't even know what the fuck we're doing over there.
Because
you know what I mean?
The only corporate media coverage is of a liberatory perspective, you know, that this is the right thing to be doing. It's like a very much an America world police type perspective that they're taking on it, that this is the right thing to be doing, that there are human rights abuses and we as America need to be stepping in. And that's the angle. There isn't any footage of the war itself. The only place to find that type of shit is like on Instagram, on Telegram, on social media apps where soldiers over there are taking their own body cam footage and uploading it onto Telegram so it can be spread around the internet. Like, that's the only way that you're getting an accurate perspective of the actual fighting and the reality of what's going on there, not just pictures of destroyed cities and like sad families. And of course that's a part of what's going on there, but that's the upfront reality of what we were talking about that's consistently covered. And the piece that's attempted to be covered up is the people that are being murdered for reasons that they don't understand.
Yes.
You know?
And I want to address something real quick because I want to call him his name, but his screen name's so nasty. Spit's nasty. He said, I'll be honest with you, the modern VA system is fantastic. I'm a Great War on Terror, a global war on terror veteran myself. A lot of my buddies agree with me. Talk to NAM, very different experience.
Yeah.
So
from my understanding, the biggest barrier, I'm not a veteran. There are many veterans in my family and in my close vicinity, so I am just speaking from conversations with them. The biggest issue, from what I understand, is if you are dealing with some form of disability. If whatever you're dealing with is related to a military disability, there's still a ton of bureaucracy and red tape and bullshit that goes with that. But a lot of other things have been greatly streamlined
and that's so good to hear.
Yes, that can make it a more effective thing.
We watched that video of that vet breaking down,
right?
On the side of the road.
No system is perfect. Yeah, so I also don't have first-hand experience, so I hesitate to come down too hard or too soft because I know Brian and he has some positive experiences, and I also know people who have,
and thank God,
who have had horrific fucking experiences with the VA. Yep. So I think it just depends on what you're working on, but that in and of itself seems like it's progress from what Brian is saying. That there probably isn't a single Vietnam vet that has a positive story about their experiences with the VA, but the fact that there are GWAT veterans that do have positive experiences, even if it is a whatever percentage, that's improvement. That's a positive thing.
Bro, GWAT, that's badass. I'm just saying, that sounds dope. Sorry, I never heard that before. That sounds dope.
Yes, sir.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that is the case. But I did want to bring something else up to the point that you were bringing on there. I think one of the things I think that ultimately changed a lot as far as like the national consciousness was the journalists in Vietnam. That all of a sudden you were getting this reality of the situation on the ground. You were seeing like heinous things, and at a certain point they were like censoring a lot of that stuff because they didn't want it to get out. You know, World War II was very different. You know,
also retaliating against the soldiers that whistle blew about it.
Yes,
it wasn't just they were covering up; they were retaliating against the people that were trying to come out and be like, these guys raped 90 people." Like, we should mention that this happened. And the commanding officer was like, you shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
You shut your fucking mouth.
And I bet you, I haven't looked at it that hard, but like just instinctually, I think there's got to be some kind of through line that carries on from there. When they realize like the negative propaganda coming out from within your own national ranks, that's bad. We can't do that. And so there's probably a much tighter rope on it. I mean, even the stuff that, fuck, look what happened when they when Snowden released the videos, or was it Snowden or Assange that released the videos of like blasting Iraqi civilians from helicopters, and when they released all that footage and stuff? You remember that?
Yeah. I believe that was Snowden that access to it, and obviously Assange that would have published it.
And one of them they've been trying to throw him in jail since the minute that happened, and the other one, they're still trying to throw him in jail. He's fucking living in Russia right now.
Yeah.
That's kind of, I think, why. I think that's part of the problem there, as far as our disconnect is. It's funny, in an age where global instant communication is the most accessible to the everyday individual that's ever existed in history, that we still have such a blackout in areas. Yeah. When you see the footage all the time from like the people that are on the ground and then posting it to
I post
whatever
it on our
things.
Instagram all the time because and with zero editorializing or anything. I just post the footage because I just think that it's relevant for people to see what's happening. Just because
you're not going to see it anywhere else.
Yeah, that's it. Just to see the reality of what it is. I think that's very relevant. I think it's very important. So I hardly ever even put any words or comments over it. It's just footage of from someone's fucking kit or their helmet or something like that. You know,
it's fucking wild shit too. Yes. Man. The videos I see are fucking crazy.
Yeah, because I don't think that anybody. Not anybody. There are a few people, civilians especially, that have an accurate understanding of what modern warfare actually looks like, and so to see the footage of like the civilian drones and stuff like that being used and during warfare, like that type of shit is important because this is how it's going to look. This is how it looks now, for the rest of time until things get better, until there are more technological advances. This is what people are going to be doing. That's what we'll be doing. That's what other people will be doing that will be fighting. Is taking shit that they can buy at a store, putting a fucking hand grenade on it, and flying it on top of somebody else. Like this is the new stage of warfare that we're entering into, and the odd historical backstep that we've taken, and this is happening while we're conducting trench warfare, is it's weird. A trip through time. Yeah, and
it's there's a little bit of World War I with a little bit of advanced warfare Call of Duty.
It is insane.
It's fucking wild.
Something I didn't think that we would ever see before.
Still like mining all over the place. There's fucking landmines fucking everywhere.
Minefields. Yeah. With
everywhere.
Weird shit.
Yeah. There's a dude I follow. I think I've talked about him before, but he's a former EOD guy, and he just goes over there as a civilian and works in these towns that are close to the front lines and stuff, and he gets together with whatever townies are there, and they kind of show him where the mines are because somebody got blown up over on that street the other day, and then he goes over there and clears hundreds of mines every day, and he just does it, and he's been doing it for fucking probably over a year at this point because he went over there almost as soon as shit popped off. So it's like you see some of that stuff, but it's not. You're not going to find that on any of the fucking corporate press media,
right?
Ever. You're not going to find any of the actual shit going on there. You just get the propaganda talking points.
X amount of refugees have now left Ukraine.
Yeah. Or Zelensky says the fucking spring offensive is going good.
Right.
Here's a map with some fucking graphics on it.
Here's a map with 0 pictures of the Bradleys and the Abrams tanks that have been fucking demolished on the first day. Like, no mention of these things.
No. I did see a line of Canadian.
Belarus is fucking arming themselves with nuclear missiles, and if anything happens, they're going to drop one on your fucking next door neighbor. And
propaganda.
Yeah.
That's all you get now at this point. It's just the state propaganda. Everything else is just online on the side. And that's it.
Same deal even from Breaking Points, watching them yesterday. And they're talking about, they're like, this is unquestionably a step closer to nuclear warfare. Why don't you stop for 5 seconds? Why don't you have a realistic discussion about the likelihood and the actual effects of somebody dropping a nuclear bomb somewhere? Take 5 seconds, fucking talk about that, and discuss how well that fits into your perception of reality. Does that seem like a thing that you really think is going to happen? Someone who wants to conquer portions of the globe is going to ruin portions of the area that they want to conquer and just be fine. Yeah, be fine with it, whatever consequences is going to come from them killing hundreds of thousands of people in a matter of seconds.
Yep.
That's your perception of reality. That's what you think is going to happen. Come on now.
Or you just use the phantom nuclear war.
There's not a single person in their entire fucking in the like a field of gravity.
They're
in their orbit. Yes,
there you go.
That will push back on them at all. I didn't take no alpha brain. That's why I'm having trouble
there
calling
it is.
these words.
There it is.
Yeah, not a single person in their orbit that's willing to push back on that narrative.
No.
It's just that, oh, dude, you're fucking right, dude, man. They're trying to nuke us. They're trying to get us, dog.
Dude, it's fucking Cold
right,
War
dude.
2.0.
I'm sure that's exactly what's
It's
happening.
gonna be ICBMs flying all over the world. It's gonna be a whole thing.
Yeah, nothing's gonna happen.
I mean, we've talked about
China, who's scarier than Russia, is like, hey, don't do that.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Russia's gonna be like, oh, we're gonna do it. Yeah, I bet. I'm sure. No,
We're
there's
strong
90 world leaders around the globe that will send in their fucking teams to kill that guy before he can press the button.
Yeah.
And they'll be happy with it. They'll be like, yeah, we did it.
Yeah.
Like, he was gonna.
You want to
destroy...
cut yourself off from China? You're the number one dog in your fight. That's the way to do that.
China's got teams, dude.
They got teams.
They ain't American teams, but they're teams, dude. They're teams. If someone can, I didn't even want to know. I'm not gonna keep going.
Yeah. I was going down the wrong path there for a minute. I was going to say something highly inappropriate. We'll save that for later on. After a few beers, that's when we can get away with that.
When the inhibitions have been lowered.
Yeah. With some of the cities in Ukraine, you'd think they'd already drop nukes. Yeah. Yeah. I saw some fucking crazy ass like firebombing and then you see just skeletons of the cities. You're like, oh, Jesus.
Dude, proper tomfoolery happening in Ukraine.
Proper tomfoolery.
Proper tomfoolery. It is.
Just a bunch of malarkey.
Yeah, dude. Knuckleheads, those Russians.
Speaking of malarkey.
Absolute knuckleheads.
You've been watching Band of Brothers while you're reading that book too, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What are you up to? What episode? Because they're like 10 episodes, right?
Yeah, I think I'm on Karen Tan. So they finished the first jump. They're about to make number 2 to head into Karen Tan. Take Karen Tan.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Ugh,
I was going to say, we were talking about mines, right? I was just reading part of this book, and they were talking about some of the dudes that jumped and some of their missions, stuff like that. So one of them were whatever group they were supposed to take this particular gun, and it was very well defended. There was like a big minefield around and all this type of shit, and they only had like a third of the guys they were supposed to have because they were dropped all over the place.
Yeah.
And so they didn't have any of their engineering equipment to try and clear the minefield, and so dudes cleared a path using their fingers to find the mines in the dirt. Like, you guys are crazy. You guys are crazy.
Inch by inch, mile by mile, bro.
Absolutely insane.
It's either you do that, or you just chance it and go. I'm crawling. I'd rather fight another day. Let's not let a mine take me out. Let's not do that.
They had like 1 or 2 dudes that cleared a path with their fingers and then just sent dudes running through there because they only had X amount of dudes, so they didn't have as many guys as they needed to execute their initial plan. So they were like, just fucking frontal assault, just go for it, and just ran dudes into the bunkers. You guys are savages, bro. Just going for it.
Different fucking people, dude.
Yeah,
different breed.
It was like a whole fuckload of privates and like 2 or 3 officers, just because everybody else was lost. And so, just a whole gang of dudes that were like 10 years old. And
that's Operation Market Garden, right? Was that when they were doing, that was like the massive full airborne. That was like the second major offensive, I think, going in.
Yeah, because this is still Operation Overlord, and each different aspect of it, like they have their own, I think, like sub name, but.
I got to brush up. I feel Shane Gillis would be chewing my ass right now if I was going to try to talk World War II history with him
Cleveland
right
has been doing the audiobook of D-Day, and he said it's very, very good. So, and he's crushing through it quicker than I am. So it's probably pretty easy to consume,
Oh, yeah, I'm sure it is.
Yeah, and it's written very well. It's chunked up. The chapters are done very
Ambrose is always real good.
Yeah, he's killing
anything he writes is fucking good.
Let's talk some local stories, huh?
Yeah, let's do that. Before we do, one more little piece of banter. Today is Saturday, the day before Father's Day.
Yes.
You said you guys have a few little plans. You're going to go fucking hiking?
Yeah,
with the
fam? We're going to go hiking tomorrow morning. I think we're going to Fort Flagler. That's a nice little loop, It's like not too bad for the kids. So
that's the one with the big hill right off the jump, right?
Yeah, and you can go either way. So because one takes you through the woods and the other one takes you through that big hill. So,
okay.
So you can either go down the big hill and then end through the woods, or go through the woods and then come up the big hill at the end. So I think we'll probably go down the big hill and let Dax get all of his runs out and everything. And
then, he'll appreciate that way more.
Yeah, I like to try and get him to walk the whole way, but I might end up switching Reason into a front pack and putting Dax in the backpack to finish it.
Oh, yeah?
And then I'll just be crushing a 70-pound ruck on the day.
Yes.
No problem.
Yes.
Not a big deal.
Life is training, bro.
Yeah, it's going to be fucking real.
Love it.
So even just carrying Reason for like those 4 days or whatever we were in Leavenworth was something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come back a few pounds. It's like I ate and drank more than I usually do, and I still lost weight. I was hauling kids around all day.
Yeah, because she was also using it for like a car or for like a high chair some places, so she wasn't getting out of it. And the easiest way to put the backpack on, because I'm taller than Jordan, is to put Reason in there and then to put the backpack on. So you're also like lifting and putting on a 30-pound pack, but there's a baby in it, so you can't like flip it over your head like you would with like a camping backpack or something. You have to like really gingerly like load her onto your back.
Them slow muscle movements.
Yeah,
dude. Yep. That's good. That's how you get them defined shoulders, bro.
Yeah, so we're gonna go for a little hike in the morning, and then there's like a good farm stand in Quilcene that I'm sure we'll stop at. That always has. They have a goat cheese brownie dog out there that they make. It's
the one like right on the side of the road, right?
Yeah. So
I've been
hit
there
that
one
up.
time.
That's a good spot.
Yeah.
So we usually hit that place up. I'm sure we will. And then we're gonna hit Cody's in the afternoon, crushing beers with the boys.
Fucking A.
And then we're gonna go to Silver City.
Yeah.
Get some dinner in the evening with Aaron and Michael and their kids, and then Jordan's dad.
This is what I was going to ask you about before we started rolling.
Yes.
I was like, no. So
Yes.
when you have your favorite like restaurant or brewery like that, right?
Yeah.
One of your top spots. You've been there 1,000 times. You know what's on the fucking menu. You know what you like. Do you go into that situation going like, I already know what I'm going to get, or is it like I have 3 go-tos and it just depends on how I'm feeling when I get there, or do you just look at the menu like virgin like every time and be like, oh, that I want that this time?
I will try new things occasionally, just to mix it up, because I've got kind of like 3 or 4 like mainstays, of shit that I'll get.
Diablo pizza is
the pizza's always on there, so it really kind of depends where I'm at on the day. I usually know before I sit down what I'm going to eat because I know what type of mood I'm in, so when I arrive, I'm like, oh, it's a pizza day, I'm gonna get a pizza today. So
Nice.
Usually by the time I get there, or if I'm not sure by the time I get there, that's when I'll look for something new, because I'm like, I don't know, I can't decide. Let's see what's up. They also mix up their specials pretty frequently, so they have like different shit going on,
Yeah, and their seasonal game is stupid fire as far as beer too. So even you can like, I'm gonna go in and have this Sonic Rain because that's like my standard go-to.
Yeah,
I'm just speaking for you this time. But then you look at these seasonals and go, fuck all that, I want that one instead.
Yes.
So even with the beers, I'm like, I can't pregame that. I got to go in fresh. Got to go in clean slate and just pick.
I did see this week, and this will make you very happy, that they are starting their Oktoberfest run. They're starting the brew process.
Yeah. Tis the season actually.
It's time. So
I got to talk to my boy over at Echoes and see when they're going to start theirs, because it's should be coming soon.
Yeah, I went to school with a guy who's one of the brewers over at Silver City, so he posts pictures when they're doing shit. And so he posts a picture of a big pallet of whatever type of grain. It's Oktoberfest time. And I was like, oh shit, Colin's gonna be jazzed.
The Marzin's in stock. Let's
It's
go,
time,
baby.
Dude.
I got 2 brewers now covered in my friends list. It's pretty sweet. Multiple establishments.
Yeah.
You got choices, baby, options.
Plus, I'm right there, so I'll always go and pick you up somewhere before it's ends. Make sure you're stocked up.
Like, bro,
Oktoberfest.
okay, I'm gonna Venmo you. I need a case. Let's go.
And they do case sales pretty consistently down at Silver City, which is always a fucking good hit. $20 for a case of craft brew. You cannot beat it.
No,
a proper case.
That's 2 6-packs at the fucking grocery store.
For real.
So that's like buy one get one.
Yes.
At that point.
Yeah.
The case is usually it's 6 6-packs, right?
No, it's 4.
4.
Yeah, it's 4 6-packs.
Yeah,
on like
24
a flat.
beers.
Yeah. I mean, a pack of like Silver City beers, is like $12 or something like that at a store. Like just a 6-pack of cans. So the savings are ridiculous.
Speaking of fucking large, unruly group chats.
You guys' soccer is popping, huh? I heard.
Yeah, like it was going all night apparently. I went to bed and like I woke up and there's like 30 fucking messages. And like I got a podcast and I'm not dealing with this shit.
We went to bed at like 11:30 and I asked her, I was like, who are you talking to? She was like, it's soccer. I was like, it's fucking 11:30. Who's talking about soccer at 11:30?
That's what I'm
fucking
saying.
Indoor soccer. What's wrong with you guys?
I feel like there's a couple guys that played Friday and that were there and were talking to people, and then they must have had like a late game or something like that, because it all started at like fucking 10:30 or something. I was like, what? No, dude, I'll deal with this another day.
People hitting some beers and they're like, all right, it's time to talk soccer.
Yeah, we got to talk some shit, boys. Let's go. All right, so let's shift into some schlocals, huh? You got any particular one you want to try to lead off with? I got a few, and we could tie them in anywhere.
Well, you already have some up, so let's start with one of yours.
Okay.
I'll send you.
And so this first one is kind of an innocuous story at first, until you really start to think about this. So we're just going to read. This comes from our local. I always forget. What's the fucking the Peacock? What's Peacock? Is that NBC?
Yeah.
So it's our local NBC affiliate, King 5 News, said, yes, speed cameras reduce fatal or injury crashes. Studies show people are less likely to speed and therefore get hurt in a crash when a camera is there to enforce speed limits.
These are the ones that will ticket you for speeding?
We read on.
Okay.
We read on. Speed cameras are currently found in less than half American states, but their use has become more common over the years. Speed safety cameras typically work by pairing a fixed radar gun with a camera, and the radar identifies speeding cars, and camera snaps a picture of their license plate, which is then used to send a ticket in the mail. No cops involved, just a nice way to harvest your tax dollars.
Beautiful. We have those at stoplights here.
Indeed. Enforcing speed laws in this way, rather than relying solely on police, can be controversial, as some people feel as though their local governments are more concerned with making easy money from the tickets than with improving public safety. But government says the goal is to save lives by preventing speed-related crashes. Verify, all caps must be it's Verify Researched. It's a fucking research group. Whether evidence shows speed cameras actually do that.
Yeah, because I guarantee when you get a ticket, right, when you see the flash, you don't go, fuck, I should slow down. You go, fuck, I just got a ticket. And you keep speeding because you're fucking mad. And there isn't anybody there to actually stop you.
Yes.
You just got a ticket for it.
And, okay, so there's a lot of this, right? You have the unmanned tax collectors. You have that aspect of it, right? You also have, constant surveillance, which is super awesome. You have a way for governments essentially to quote unquote enforce the law when it comes to speed limits, which I have problems with anyways, without actually paying into the manpower that requires them to do this. So it's like an initial investment of installing a bunch of cameras somewhere, and then you just get to sit back and just collect a bunch of money. And what's to stop the state from using all of those cameras all over the city or all over the state or at the fucking stoplights and wherever the hell they're putting these things, from tapping into those feeds to track you in other means?
Right.
This is how you get surveillance state, right? And it's not out of the realm of possibility to think that that's what's going to happen. Just remember fucking COVID, okay? It's not that hard to say these are going to be used for nefarious purposes in the future, if not already. They're just going to try to say, they're going to get the local media and everybody to stand up and say this is all about public safety. It's always about public safety when it comes to infringing on your rights and your freedom of movement and your ability to kind of what's the difference in getting in a fucking head-on collision at 50 miles an hour and 60 miles an hour? Not a ton. I'm sorry, bro. If shit's going to go sideways and somebody's going to sideswipe you on the freeway, you're going to have a bad time, period.
Yeah.
Right? It's shitty to try to look at a system of surveillance, which I think there's got to be an argument in there somewhere that it violates, your constitutional rights in some kind of facet by just essentially keeping everybody surveilled so that the minute you break a law, they have you on camera doing it.
Yeah.
What's to stop them from putting fucking identifying, facial identification software on it like they do in China, and then really tracking all your movements? This is just how this all starts. It all starts with speed cameras or fucking safety cameras or whatever you want to call it. They put them all around the city. They put them all up on the fucking freeways and the highways, and it's all under the guise of public safety. Well, public safety can turn into China like that. All you got to do is get fucking Bob Ferguson in as the new governor, and he's going to be like, well, it's everybody's going to be way safer if we have cameras on every corner in the city of Seattle, because that way when somebody fucking kills a pregnant woman in a car in a random shooting like what just happened like last week, we'll be able to get facial recognition on the guy. We'll be able to track him down and find him. That's a lovely way to look at it until the guy walking down the street has conversations on the internet that label him a domestic violent extremist, and then they track you that way and scoop you up off the street that way.
Right.
Like, it's none of this shit's it's always a facade when they start talking about public safety, because that just means more government intrusion into your life, which never goes backwards. It only ever goes one way, and it's never a good way.
I think a good example of what you're talking about is during COVID, here in particular, I don't know about other states, they were using people's GPS data to decide and figure out how many people were driving on the roads.
Yeah, which they got from the cell phone companies.
Right. They're collecting your cell phone data from those companies and using it, like you said, because we're trying to make sure that everyone is safe. It's about public safety. If people are driving, then we know that we're going places. You're doing dangerous things when you need to be in your home quarantining.
You're being bad.
It's good that we're doing this.
Yes.
Right. So that's I don't think that you're far off with that. Even if you don't take it to like an extreme
conspiratorial level.
Yeah, I mean those things did happen when they were just trying to see who was staying at home and who wasn't, trying to decide who was being a good COVID person and who was not being a good COVID person.
That's right. And it was all for public safety, baby.
Right.
Everything's always for fucking public safety.
They were willing to collect, and the corporations were willing to provide your personal location information so that they could decide who was staying at home and who was not.
Yep. Just like what happened to Washington, D.C. on January 6th. I think we talked about it maybe last episode, or maybe we just talked about it at some point. But, Bank of America decided to hand over any purchase information from anybody that was in the area that was attached to their bank between the dates of January 5th and January 7th, and they just handed it over to the feds to see their transaction history for those 3 days, to see if any red flags would come up. Yeah. The government didn't even have to ask. They just gave it to them.
They just do it.
They just do it. It's not you cannot continue to go down the route of a surveillance state and not become a surveillance state. You can't put all the pieces into place and then just everything's going to be fine. We're benevolent. It's all
like
good.
A duck and it sounds like a duck.
It's going to fucking fart like a duck.
Yeah. Yeah. So this story this is in regards to
ice cream?
Yeah. Chaz Chop, right? A couple years ago, 2020. Most people remember this even if you didn't live here.
This was where the phrase "Summer of Love" came from. Yes. It was from Chaz. The Chaz Chop.
Post George Floyd, when the riots were hot and heavy. There was a 10 square block or something like that portion of Seattle that was dubbed Chaz for a small portion of time. The Capitol Hill.
Oh, you got this. Originally, Capitol Hill.
Yeah.
Autonomous zone.
Autonomous zone, right. All I could think was occupied, but I'm like, that's not it. That's the next one. And then after they realized that they couldn't get help from the outside if they were autonomous, they became an occupied protest, so they could.
They literally became traitors to the union.
Right.
They were insurrectionists. I mean, at that point, that's when they had to rebrand and call it the occupied protest.
Yes,
because they're like, well, the National Guard can come in and just arrest everybody because you guys declared sovereignty.
Yes.
You can't do that. Ask the South how that went. Not so well.
There were tons of private citizens as well as businesses that were extremely unhappy about the occupied protest because they felt that it made the area very unsafe. Cal Anderson Park was totally inhabited by people that were living there, which it is anyway all the time.
Rapes, murders.
Yeah,
I mean,
there was rape there. There were people that were murdered. There were multiple shootings there. Then also the businesses, like I said, lost a ton of revenue. A lot of them. And so there's one particular business called Molly Moon's Ice Cream that is now suing the city for, I believe, $3 million.
It's so
over
good.
Alleged revenue losses during the Chaz Chop protest. So we'll read the story and then we'll talk about it a little bit more because there are some interesting aspects that go into this. This one's from KUOW and I sent another one from My Northwest so we can read them both and kind of compare and contrast.
Oh, that's going to be fun.
How different they are because they are quite different.
Oh, I'm sure. My Northwest is slightly based in.
So this one is from KUOW, which is our local NPR affiliate. And it is entitled Molly Moon's Ice Cream Sues Seattle Over Revenue Losses During and After Chop. The ice cream chain claims the city violated its constitutional rights by creating a government-authorized invasion and acting with, quote, deliberate indifference towards the safety and property of its store. The suit is seeking an unidentified amount in damages. I thought I read $3 million somewhere.
Might be in the My Northwest.
Yeah. During the 2020 Black Lives Matter protest, the Seattle Police Department left the East Precinct headquarters. It was being...
They left? Is that what they said?
Yeah.
They left, huh? They had to evacuate. They had to...
It was being sieged, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's like a pretty
They
accurate...
abandoned the East Precinct.
Because they were mobbing on it.
They were.
Yeah, it was like a version of what happened in the federal building in Portland, you know? They were getting after it.
Except they got in.
Right.
That was the whole thing.
They got in, so they left. The suit alleges that SPD's decision to, quote, abandon and close off the area encouraged... Also... They didn't close off Chaz Chop. That's the people inside of Chop closed it off themselves and then enforced those barriers.
Yeah, rolling dumpsters out, knocking over anything. Yes.
They had armed guards standing in there deciding who could and could not leave and extorting the people who lived in the neighborhood of the occupied protest.
Yep. If you were a journalist and you made that up front while you're trying to make entry, they would not allow you in.
Yes.
Or they would, but they'd smash your phone first.
Yeah. The area encouraged a, quote, hostile occupation of the neighborhood. That's very interesting. It added that it left the neighborhood, quote, unchecked by police, unserved by fire and emergency health services, and inaccessible to the public. So let's take a trip back in time when the first shooting happened, right? There were, in fact, ambulances sitting outside of the occupied protest, right? This was happening because the ambulance, the EMTs, could not verify that they were entering a safe area to operate, which is part of their mandate. Like they operate in safe zones. This was happening because the police were not allowed to enter Chaz to render the area safe because the people protesting in Chaz Chop were anti-police. So they wouldn't let the cops in to make the area safe, so the EMTs wouldn't go in because the area wasn't safe, and the EMTs came under verbal fire because they wouldn't go in and save the lives of the people that were there. When they're like, we can't verify we're not going to die, I'm not going to go in there.
Yes. Because if it's a hostile situation where somebody gets shot, the police would cordon off an area to make sure that it's safe for EMTs to respond. They come in, they leave, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, in a place where there are no cops allowed, you by default can't enter.
And no one willing to, seemingly willing to actually help the EMTs, just to tell them something is happening. You're a piece of shit for not doing anything about it. We could argue that all day, whether or not they should have, but that's the reality of the situation and how it transpired, right? And
the reality of the way, at least the city of Seattle works, is you're not. If you're an EMT and you break protocol to go do that, well, guess what? You're not going to be an EMT working there very much longer.
Right. Police also moved barriers, leaving customers unable to safely access the ice cream shop, or customers avoided the area entirely. I'm sure that was just because the cops. Due to fears of more violence and safety concerns, the store closed for multiple days. In the past, CEO Molly Moon Neitzel stated that she supports police reform. In a statement, Molly Moon said the suit is not meant to undermine protesters' messages. The company says the suit it's not meant to undermine the protesters' messages. You don't even have an accurate perception of how this happened, right? Because when the police aren't there, it's very difficult to argue that they are the ones that are depriving you of revenue. When there are other people who are actually dictating who can and cannot enter the zone, who are the ones who are moving the barriers.
Yeah, the mob of people.
It's very difficult to argue that it's the police officers that are denying you revenue.
Yeah, the mob of people that occupied and shut off this entire 10-block area, those are the people at fault for that. Mind you, it's also the state's fault for not clearing them out right away and allowing that to happen, I guess. But.
Yes. The company says the suit is seeking indemnification for the significant revenue losses and team morale impacts experienced during and for many months after CHOP caused by the city of Seattle's decision to abandon the police precinct. I think that it's, with what was happening then, it's difficult to argue that Chaz Chop would not have happened if the Seattle PD would have stayed in the East Precinct. I don't know that that's the case.
Yeah,
I think that it likely would have still happened if they would have stayed. If they would have left that day and come back the next day, I mean, like, you guys knuckleheads get out of here, Chas Chop would have still been up. Like, that area would still have been established.
Yeah.
And at that point, what are they going to do?
And you know what would make this incredibly easy as far as their litigation is concerned is if they had access to all the text messages that Jenny Durkin deleted during this entire time, the mayor of the city, because I guarantee you,
Like Carmen Best?
when Police Chief Carmen Best and Mayor Durkin were texting back and forth on their various government phones, and then all those text messages were deleted, I guarantee you a lot of it was to do with the government's decision to support the abandonment of the East Precinct. That would probably be like a closed cut, pay us $5 million now and go fuck yourself type of situation.
According to Como News, after CHOP was dismantled, hundreds of armed police officers visited the shop and made employees feel uncomfortable. This led to Neitzel posting a sign reading, "Police officers, Molly Moons is a gun-free zone. Please do not come inside if you are wearing a firearm. Police officers were welcomed if they were not armed." So, okay.
I love that so much.
And I have not spoken to the police officers, so I don't know if this was a concerted effort for them to try and intimidate the workers of Molly Moons. That's difficult for me to believe. Not saying that they don't have it within them. That's the inherent nature of officers of the state, is to coerce you. That's what they do, right? They're the enforcement agents of the state. So I'm definitely not saying they don't do that.
The very first level of the lethal force pyramid is officer presence, because that in itself, when you have a uniformed, armed officer, if in the public, if you can lay eyes on them, there's automatically a level of state authority that carries that. And so people's behaviors will change. They will be affected just by having somebody in uniform standing in front of them.
And if you have a supposedly well-loved Seattle ice cream shop, right? Assuming the police officers probably take kids there, they probably go there, they probably frequent this establishment when Chas Chop is not in existence. They've seen you closed for multiple days. They've seen you obviously lost revenue because they know how many people were and were not going into Chas Chop. They know how many people were and were not going into your store. It seems like maybe, far be it from me to try and attribute the best to a fucking officer of the state, but it seems like maybe they were trying to help you reclaim some of your lost revenue during that time.
Well, officer presence might help, right?
Spit in their fucking eye by saying, "Hey, we're not going to be having guns in here because this is a gun-free zone."
Because this is an ideological issue, right?
Even though these are 2 years from now, I'm going to tell you, we could have used some of those guns in here when they were raping motherfuckers.
Word.
Right? When I was losing money because they were raping and killing people in here, I could have really used some of those guns to enforce, and it's your abdication of your responsibility to protect me, which you probably couldn't do effectively without a firearm, that has now led to my loss in revenue. That's a very odd and circuitous argument to make, that at the core of it is really you being a fucking asshole, right?
Yes.
So we could take
This is the base ideology of guns are evil, guns are bad, so we don't allow guns in here and the minute we see a gun, we start having a panic attack because we don't understand them enough, we don't like them, they're scary. And now it's even worse that you're a fucking cop on top of that, because we also don't like you as it is. And this is just, I guarantee you, their simple presence of walking into an establishment like that, depending on the basis of the employees that are working there, which if it's Capitol Hill is going to be a certain type of person that has a certain ideology, most likely.
They're Chazers, dude.
They're not going to be there. They're going to see you as a police officer walking in there with your firearm on you, and they're going to fucking piss themselves.
You're an inherent threat.
Because they're just going to think, due to the propaganda and their ideological rules, that your only job is at that point is to kill minorities when you come in here, and so you're just here to intimidate us. You're not here to get some ice cream. You're here to make us scared and keep us in line.
And I think there's an interesting point to be made that even if we remove the particular groups from it, right? If you shit on a particular group of people, regardless of who it is, you can't really expect the support of that group afterwards.
No, not really.
If you spit in my eye, I'm not going to tell my friends to help you.
Yes.
I'm not going to do that. That's not something I'm going to be willing to do. So
I shit on a lot of groups of people. I don't expect any of their help.
Yeah, because what else do you want from them? If you're showing an active distaste towards this group, why would they actively support you?
Yeah.
Why? Well, that's out of human nature for someone to continue to be nice to you when you're being an asshole to them. That doesn't make any logical sense.
Yeah, I mean, you could play devil's advocate and be like, well, it's their fucking job regardless of whether they like me or not. But also, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
It's not, if I was a cop in that situation, I'm not going to go there. They fucking hate me.
Yeah.
Why would I do that? No. Figure it out. You want to figure it out? Figure it out.
Figure it out.
Good luck.
Let's read some of this My Northwest article. Let's see. This is an update at 4 p.m. Mark Lindquist, the former Pierce County prosecutor, told Cairo News Radio Molly Moons, even though it supported CHOP, the company decided it wanted to share its share of the city treasure after watching other businesses' lawsuits succeed. The city of Seattle screwed this up so bad that the plaintiffs are certain to win this lawsuit despite some weaknesses. Original story. Local ice cream maker Molly Moons is suing City of Seattle for losses it claims came from the decision by the Seattle Police Department to leave its East Precinct building during the Capitol Hill organized protest. In the federal lawsuit filed Wednesday, Molly Moons stated its constitutional rights were overrun by the city's decision to abandon the 10-block area of Capitol Hill overtaken by protesters. The ice cream maker is accusing the city of materially supporting and encouraging a hostile occupation of that neighborhood. That is hilarious. The lawsuit does not seek to undermine CHOP's participants' message or present a counter message. The lawsuit acquired by Cairo News Radio read, rather, this lawsuit is about the plaintiff's constitutional and other legal rights, of which were overrun by the city of Seattle's decision to abandon and close off an entire city neighborhood, leaving it unchecked by the police, unserved by fire and emergency health services, inaccessible to the public at large, and then materially support and encourage a hostile occupation of that neighborhood. The city's decision subjected businesses, employees, and residents of that neighborhood to extensive property damage, public safety dangers, and an inability to use and access their properties. Also, during the day, they were letting people in. Like, they were doing that. It was like a fucking arts festival that they were encouraging people to come in and show them during the day that Chaz is actually really cool.
Or really friendly.
It's not dangerous. Like, I had a cousin who went there and she posted all these videos and then was coming to me when I saw her the next time and like, well, did you even go to Chaz? And I said, no, of course I didn't fucking go there. And she said, well, then how do you know how it was? Because people got murdered there. What do you mean, how do I know how it was? Because I know people got murdered there and the woman said that she got raped there. What do you mean, how do I know how it was?
Yeah, it
because
was very
I saw
Soviet.
The videos of people handing fucking guns out to people who didn't know what they were doing and saying, have a good day.
Yep.
What do you mean, how do I know? I don't need to go there. And that's not, I'm sure that sounds shitty. Like, I don't need to eat the food to know that I don't like it. But that's like, I don't need to fucking see the murder with my own eyes to know, though, there's a police report because someone got murdered there.
Well, there was plenty of live streams. There was plenty of videos posted of it all the time. Like, I didn't know My Northwest was based.
They are.
Yes,
surprisingly,
especially a couple that because the Rants he writes for My Northwest, right?
Yeah,
he goes fucking hard.
Yes, he does. Molly Moons claimed the protest made its shop, located just across from Cal Anderson Park, unreachable, and they suffered huge losses in revenue. The lawsuit was filed in the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Washington and demands payment for damages, which are unspecified as of this reporting. I wonder where I heard the
drive-by. Just another 187. Shout out Will Wallace, buddy. Congratulations, Will Wallace, now that you're in the chat.
A Molly Moon spokesperson released a statement saying that they supported the protests and their goals, but were looking to make up for what they call a significant loss in revenue caused by the city's actions.
Okay, you can't do that.
At Molly Moons, we hold race equity at the top of our list of priorities for how we want to make the world better. Black Lives Matter. That's its own sentence. Those three words are its own sentence. Yep. All of them capitalized. The lawsuit filed that which really means that they're just using the name of the organization. Yes. They're not making the statement because it isn't grammatically correct. If they're just making the statement Black Lives Matter, only the word black would be capitalized. Because all three words are capitalized, they're just saying charity.
Yeah.
That's all they're saying. They're saying the name of a charity. They're not actually telling you that Black Lives Matter. They're just saying also charity. And then moving on to the next thing. Just so everyone is clear on how this is written and actually what they're saying. They're not actually telling you that Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, and when you really say charity, what you're saying is corrupt nonprofit organization that stole millions of dollars from people that gave them money.
501c3, I guess is what I should say.
I hate to give Candace Owens any credit, for almost anything.
Got him, dude.
But she had a really good documentary she made about that.
Yeah.
Highly recommend.
Got him.
Got him.
The lawsuit filed on Wednesday, June 7th, is not meant to undermine that important message. It's seeking indemnification for the significant revenue losses and team morale impacts we experienced during and for many months after CHOP, caused by the city of Seattle's decision to abandon the police precinct and stop responding to public safety needs in our beloved Capitol Hill community.
Capitol Hill community, huh?
It's interesting the way that they choose to leave their entire argument uncontextualized by everything else that was happening in 2020, like the rampant calls for having the police budget in Seattle, because that happened. Right, all of these,
the reason Carmen Bass got fired,
right, all of these different policies that we're going to go into, like the one, you can't pursue people who have stolen cars, you can't, there's all kinds of shit that you can do that that people get brought in for and immediately turned back out of the street. So this narrative that they're spinning about Seattle police choosing to stop responding to public safety needs, well, when you fucking hold mass protests outside of the state capitol and you demand that they pare back what police can do in their, I hate making this argument. It's right. Horrific. I really hate it. But it's crazy to watch someone try and skew reality so harshly, because it ignores so much of what really happened, Yep. So when you have massive protests outside of the state capitol in which you're demanding that what police officers can do in their roles as law enforcement is limited, when you're asking for that to happen, there's going to be less law enforcement in the city. That's how it's going to happen, because that's what you've asked for. That's what you've demanded from the state and from the city, is that they pare back the aggression of Seattle PD. This is literally what you asked for. This is quite literally what you asked for. And now, as the update to the story said, you want to dip your hand into the pockets of taxpayers because you don't like what came from that.
Yes.
Well, these fucking, the people you shat on, the conservatives, the Republicans, the fucking whatevers that told you this is probably a bad idea, I don't know if you really want to do this, that you called fascists, right?
Now you're asking for money because the fascists wouldn't show up.
Maybe they had a little bit of something going on.
Yeah, this sounds like a lot of buyer's remorse. This is an establishment that says they supported the movement. They were all about it. They just said in their statement. And now all of a sudden you're going to look back on that decision that you made to do that, and you have regrets about that because of all the money you lost, because of what you decided was the right thing to do at the time. Now you can make a different argument about essentially being coerced into trying to keep your business open and to play the act and to say the words so that they wouldn't burn down your establishment.
Yes.
But that would be a different argument, and they're not making that. The argument they're making
from,
we supported everything you guys did and everything you were all about, and we were all about it at the time. But now, fucking 3 years later, we lost a bunch of money, city of Seattle, and we've decided now that it was your fault, and so you need to pay us lost revenue at that point. You need to pay us back for everything we lost, even though we wholly supported it and maintained our business at the same time that this was all going on. So you supported it, and now you're having buyer's remorse over what you supported, and now you're going to take it out on the city of Seattle because they didn't go against what you wanted to do and enforce the actual law at the time. And now you're like, well, since you guys didn't do that, even though we supported everything that was going on at the time, you still owe us money. And at the end of the day, legally, doesn't matter what they actually wanted or what they supported. The fact that the city allowed this to happen makes the city at fault.
Right.
And so they're just going to cash in on this shit.
Right.
This is fucking disgusting. But this is also modern day legal fare.
Because the thing that they aren't wrong about that you just pointed out is the city did allow this to happen.
Yeah.
I don't know that you can blame it on the decision of the police officers to leave this particular precinct.
No.
There is no doubt. There is no doubt that the city created an environment and where this was able to happen, and that it was supported from a state level, at least from the city level, where Jenny Durkin is saying it might be a summer of love. Who knows that it's going to be bad? It might be really good.
Yeah, there was that clip of Inslee. It was like, oh yeah, I don't even know what this Chaz Chop thing
Never
is.
heard of it.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah, never even heard of it.
Bitch, you lying.
Right.
We know that. Come on now.
The willing ignorance, at the very least, right? Of the state leadership.
Yeah.
Certainly created
Shout out Bilbo Swaggins.
Yeah. Bilbo.
Welcome back, buddy.
Oh, let's finish up the rest of this article.
Do it.
Earlier this year, federal judge Thomas Zilli handed down sanctions against the city of Seattle for deleting tens of thousands of missing text messages from the phones of top officials, including the former mayor and police chief during CHOP in the summer of 2020. Zilli wrote there was evidence of gross negligence by the city and significant evidence that the destruction of CHOP evidence was intentional, and city officials attempted to hide the deleting of text for months in the face of opposing lawsuits.
No shit.
I know it. But despite the sanction, not all businesses have received vindication or compensation for operating near CHOP. Several Capitol Hill property owners ultimately failed to meet several criteria to reach class action certification last year. The judge's reasoning, according to court documents, was the differences among the accusations and the damage descriptions the individual plaintiffs leveled against Seattle.
I'm also kind of wondering, like, why are you waiting 3 years on at this point? Is it just because you saw other businesses win? And you're like, well, let's get a piece of part of that pie.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if you really, actually, truly were offended by this, you know, whether monetarily or whatever, that you would have tried to take legal action immediately.
Yeah.
That seems like would have been something that happened.
Do you have the YouTube video in the top of here? The embedded?
I do.
Let's watch it. I didn't watch it, but let's see what they have to say.
Okay.
I heard we're going to talk about ice cream and lawsuits.
I like ice cream.
Me
I don't
too.
want to sue anybody, but I like ice cream. So bring us up to speed here. Molly Moons is suing the city of Seattle, claiming that the decision to withdraw police, fire, and other emergency services from Capitol Hill's organized protest, the CHOP zone, a number of years ago, led to huge revenue losses for them. So they're suing.
Yes, and I know that there are going to be people who say, well, isn't that especially rich? Because Molly Moon, the owner, was also the same person who said, essentially, this is a gun-free zone. We don't want police officers here if they don't take off their arms. And, everyone who was very supportive of police took that as insulting. Police were upset about it, and now here is this lawsuit. So I want to make sure that everyone knows, yes, we realize that is the same owner, and isn't there an irony there?
Yes.
But this is going to be basically the legacy of the person who said this.
We could have the summer of love.
Jenny Durkin.
Former mayor
She will
Jenny
never live
Durkin.
that down.
No,
Ever live that
she will not live that down. And so this lawsuit is just the latest in the basically what the city of Seattle is going to end up having to pay out for the abysmal failure of that particular administration. The CHOP zone was crazy. I think that a lot of people are still just kind of trying to wrap their brains over the idea that an entire section of the city of Seattle was given up for these protests. I don't know how you guys...
And they're still not back in that precinct. Like that police precinct is just still...
Empty?
No.
No, did they move back in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
No. That.
I was like,
Come
no
on,
fucking
Cairo.
way.
What are you doing? You want to keep playing?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that Molly Moon probably will end up getting the payout.
Yeah,
And
probably.
This is apparently it pays to not have any morals and just not give a shit. So.
It sure does, especially if your mayor's Jenny Durkin.
Yeah.
When the mayor fucks up so bad, you're like, well, we can cash in on this. Let's go. And then there's lawyers chomping a bit like, oh, yeah, please, let me get in on this. We'll do it pro bono because we're going to win. I'm going to make a shit ton of money.
Right.
Let's do it.
Right.
William Wallace says, this is what Starbucks did a few years ago. I don't buy Starbucks. And there are multiple Starbucks locations in downtown Seattle that don't exist anymore because of all of this. It happened very quickly. Ever since our great summer of love, everything's kind of gone fucking downhill over in Seattle. It's a pretty sweet deal. So overall, I mean, how many more? This is not going to stop. These businesses, you're just going to basically, I'd be curious how many businesses have already sued and won, and what other businesses are essentially waiting out in the wings at this point to get their turn to cash in. Because if, this is kind of a staple ice cream shop up on Cap Hill. It's a pretty big deal. Molly Moon's is pretty popular up there. What other businesses are there that essentially got taken over?
Yeah, I wonder how
would
big
be interested
of a diameter, like an area, an affected area, they're going to be able to draw.
Yeah, because even if they're not directly in the area, that 10-block radius, even within a block or two from that, if you go out,
right,
people were not wanting to get fucking close to that place because it was wild.
And the bottom of that article, I just closed it on my computer, but the bottom of that article said people near the Chaz area.
Yeah, that's what kind of triggered me to think about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the fact that the out of those two articles, the My Northwest one was the only one that actually brought up the Durkin text messages situation. Yeah. I was like, fucking yes. That's why I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking.
Right, that there probably should be more information that is available, but it's not.
Yep.
Because Jenny Durkin said, I didn't know that it was set to auto-delete every 30 days. I didn't set up my phone.
Oh,
I don't know.
Yeah, and we went through that whole fucking giant-ass report saying, like, that was bullshit.
Right.
But hey, that's fine. She's going to get away with it. She's gone now, so who cares?
Durkin.
Durkin. Well, I had a couple little stories about how terrible Seattle is with crime these days, but we don't really need to hit it.
I have one about car theft. That's the only other one that I have.
Okay. Actually, why don't we save that? Because I have another national car theft story that those two might meld with. One based out of New York, and then if this one is based in Seattle,
it is.
I'd be real curious how the two stack up.
Deal.
So let's hold on to those. Unless you have anything else, we've been going for almost an hour and a half, so we could probably call this segment a close if you want.
I am good with that, yeah.
Cool.
So with that, we will call this first... Excuse me. We'll call part 1 to an end. It's been part 1 of Salt of the Streets. What is William going on about here?
Prizes.
There was a shooting there last night, Seattle. Yeah, don't fucking doubt it. Don't fucking doubt it.
Oh,
yeah. We will call this the end of part 1. I want to thank you, of course, for watching us here on youtube.com/Salt of the Streets. We also have our Instagram and our Patreon, patreon.com/Salt of the Streets. Go there, subscribe, help us make more better content like this. Shout out to Zeke, our executive producer. You can also find us at our own personal social media. I am at Salt of the Street on Twitter and at alpaca_Donovan on Instagram. And Colin is a Big Bird Offie on both of those things. You can find all of this at saltofthestreets.com. Swell Blended. He's the sponsor for the first segment of this show. I got my haircut. These guys didn't know. I don't know if I told you this. 2 days before I got my haircut, I was talking to the Ambleman group chat, and I referenced my refreshments for the drive home.
Indeed.
Right? And Brian said, that's my second favorite thing about you. And I chose to not, ask what the other two were. And a few minutes later, he said, the first is your hair, and the third is your Adam Katz pin on your kit. And so I knew when he said that I was going to get my haircut the next day. So I chose to not say anything because I also knew that I would see him in 3 days. So I saw him on Sunday, and I took my hat off when we got there, and he didn't say anything. And then probably about halfway through the day, I went to take my sweatshirt off, and he said, also, real disappointed about the hair.
I'm telling you, bro. When it comes to your hair, we're a socialist utopia, all right?
Dude,
it's not your hair, it's our hair.
The level of collective disappointment that has been expressed to me about cutting my hair has been pretty interesting. Oh. I told you, the one woman at work, she walked past me on Monday and she just said, no. No. I said, what? And she said, you cut your hair.
Dude, it fucked me up so bad. I had to ask you again if you had it cut midweek.
Yeah.
I was like, well, maybe he just didn't like, because you were sporting a hat for a while. And then you came in the other day and your hair looked like fucking right out of a 1950s musical number, and it looked amazing. I was like, what happened? What'd you do?
I have to do it more because it still wants to middle part super bad because it did for so long. So I have to do it more to
retrain that bitch.
Yeah.
It's a problem.
Yeah.
Well,
but I'm pleased with it. So
that's good.
Yeah, Swell Blended is the sponsor for the first segment, along with Zeke, our illustrious executive producer.
That's right.
So with that, we'll call this an end, and we'll be back in just a few minutes for part 2, the national stories.
With beers.
That's right.
See you then. Bye.
Welcome to the Salt of the Streets, coming at you every week with this food for thought. Hope you ready to eat everything.